Welcome to episode 28 of Randall Vision. I'm your host, Randall. Today, I'm going to do a little bit of a vibe check that I just recently did a rewatch of the series up until this point. So, do a little recap and I'm trying to avoid this becoming too structured of a project that I've mentioned before that I've got like a list of topics I could speak on, but I've been patient and waiting until I feel like talking about certain subjects that I'm going to assume that I don't know everything and that things that I want to talk about in the future will be better informed by things that I continue to learn. So, but then meanwhile, looking at it that way, that means that I'm like trying to look smart. I don't think that's the right way. I think it means that I'm trying to do a good job. And like, what is the job I'm doing? I don't know. Living. I think that's kind of the conclusion that the philosophy episode brought me to, was that just living is kind of the only point. So, that's cool. Just the real simple, what is my life's purpose? It is to live my life. Who would have thought? How reductive, how obvious. But, with the caveat, I remember at the end there, it was to live well. Anybody can live, but to do it with some degree of skill or purpose. And see, that's the thing, so if my purpose is, purpose is to live well. Okay, that's different than living. Got it. Okay. Now, yeah, this is bad. See, doing thinking in front of the camera, that's what I was trying to avoid. That's what I was coming down here to do. A quick point. I've been struggling a little bit with thinking or existing or what so our thoughts, it could be generally, there are schools of thought that consider that our thoughts, particularly not all of them, we're not the author of our thoughts, that we just kind of swim in streams of consciousness sometimes that don't necessarily belong to us but are just flowing by us. So that the stream I sit in just has this running dialogue all day about the craziest shit, and it's like delusions of grandeur and all the bonkers stuff, which brings us to some of a point I wanted to address here. I was trying to come down to think spontaneously, but without putting much effort into it. My mind just kind of constructs these dialogues sometimes in advance. But so there's a couple of threads I want to pull at here. Why do I wear a shirt and tie? It's because I want people to take me seriously. I may have wrote this down in a notebook, now, lost the quote. Anyhow, clothes make the man. If I was doing this in pajamas, makes me look a lot more crazy. If I do it with a shirt and tie, I may come off more credible just because of what I'm wearing. And that's a real thing. That there's like psychology behind that, or some sort of power or influence or whatever. Oh yeah, unconscious bias. That like I don't know, and that's like being so self-conscious or self-aware that like, oh, make sure you sit up straight, make sure you look your eye in the camera, those kind of things. um, I don't know. Okay, so if I want people to take me seriously, why do I tell story? I think I've told 2 stories about things that could be construed as divine persecution while under the influence of LSD. Why would I? If I want people to take me seriously, why would I shoot myself in the foot that hard? I don't know. It's okay. I do know. It's the authenticity that I'm trying to speak my truth. I'm trying to describe the things that happened to me in my life and that shaped me as a human being. So if that makes me crazy, fine. You know, I mentioned the caveat about the stigma of mental health and all of that. And I have some views on what mental health is or could be or whatever. And like none of this is like firm, but like I've read more than a couple of books on psychology. I've taken some courses in psychology. It's almost appalling how little we know about our minds, our consciousness, and reframing your definitions of like mental health. I've personally reframed. Oh, no, it's not a reframing of mental health. It's making the distinction between mental health and behavioral health, where if you have your behavioral health under control, then your mental processes are I don't think irrelevant's the right word. I don't think your mental processes are irrelevant, but the degree. Okay, no, that doesn't make sense. I don't believe that either. Um, Having a grip on behavioral health is a good first step. Let's put it that way. Um, that's I believe that. Uh, so I still see myself not doing as well as I could or should. Like, how many times a week are you supposed to bathe? Because like I'm around 2, and it should probably be more than that. Um, Also, I blame that on the season a little bit. That I certainly bathe more often in the summer than I do in the winter, so it's cold. But human knowledge, say science, for example, as far as like structural engineering, they get a good score on a scale of 1 to 10, like 7, 8. We could build buildings and bridges and dams, and they usually don't fall apart. Um, I'm trying to think of other applied sciences. We do stuff with biology and chemistry, and physics and all that, but like whenever it comes to like, well, medicine's its own thing. Like the physical body, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give like a 5 or a 6, maybe even a 7. But then on our mind, the amount of faith I have in our, if I were to guess, it would only be like a 1 or a 2 out of 10 on our ability to comprehend what the problem is or help others. Like, or is it that we know and we just aren't doing the right shit, or like it? I think the plethora of maps and models illustrates that there probably isn't one size fit all solutions. And to have individuals trained well enough to help people that are able to sort through all the maps and models and figure out which ones apply. And the problem that is trying to be solved is too complex. And the assumption that something is wrong is also like a weird kind of I've always wondered, like, is there somebody who is actually mentally healthy? Like, does that term even apply to any human? There's so many of us. I'm willing to bet that there's a handful out there, but so circling this back around, the thing that I wanted to clarify, that yes, delusions of divine persecution are symptoms of like schizophrenia, I believe. Like also when I was in college and I took abnormal psychology, when we covered schizophrenia, the major symptoms looked like a checklist for me. I was like, 7 out of 8, I guess I win. But then them warning us about stuff like, don't read the DSM-4, you'll walk away way worse than you were when you walked in, and all that. But like certain ones of them resonated with me since I was a child, like the imaginary audience. That was always a strong suspicion I held as a child. Sometimes I would perform for it, like pre-internet, performing for the world or the universe or whatever. Or is that imaginary audience, is it God? Could it be God? Was it God in my case when I was a kid? Was that who I was showing off for? Is that who I continued to show off for throughout my life? That I don't... The story I like to tell myself is that the invisible audience was the only audience that ever mattered. It wasn't about being here. And I think that was my misunderstanding. Being here's the point, not showing off. Or maybe showing off can be part of being here, I guess. Wow, why do I always cry in these? Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna say you know, oh, I'm not crazy, or look at me, look how crazy I am. You could be the judge. I don't care. Go ahead, judge me. I don't care. I'm done. Um, no, and also, I don't think I ever cared what anybody thought ever. My mom taught me that. Remember, you're a sovereign individual. Do what thou wilt.